Today is 638 that I'm here to share lessons I learn, and I'm learning. I hope this also supports your dreams, your goals, allow you to become the person that you want to become. Today I will speak about one more emotion, because I said emotions is very, very important, so you need to choose what emotion you want to feel. And today I want to speak about optimism. I think that the optimism is a topic that people a lot of times speak about. And I found that even though that optimism is very used word, but majority of times people still do not understand what true optimism means. Because a lot of times, because people have misconceptions what optimism means, they said, oh, I don't want to be optimist. I don't want to be called optimist. I want to be called realistic. Or I want to be called pessimist. Because they really believe that life is not good. But it's research to show that people who are optimistic are able to achieve more, get better relations, get better health, and there is so many advantages of positivity, of optimism. And I always see that positivity and optimism could be and are different. Positivity is very changing. One day you're positive, one day you're not. While optimism, you can be all the time optimistic, even though that you are devastated, unhappy, but you're able to be optimistic because you know that this devastation, this trouble, this pain that you have in your heart at the moment will disappear sooner or later if you will take action, if you will, or it depends on where that grief is coming from. If you have a loss, and of course you have a huge pain, but optimist knows that this pain will not stay forever. So first I would love to start by speaking what kind of misconceptions people have about optimism. I will share 5 misconceptions that people have about optimism. People believe that optimism is about ignoring reality or being in denial. Now that's why people say that I'm realistic and say that you're ignoring reality if you're optimistic. And the biggest thing that I always want to ask is, who decides what is realistic, what's not? Who decides? Why do you believe that you are good and you're qualified to say what's realistic, what's not? Because a lot of times, optimists are realistic. Optimists are very realistic people. They have reality in check. They say, okay, this is what we are going through, but it doesn't matter what we are going through. I accept exactly what's going on now, but I will keep my optimist mind. I will choose my mind and my actions based on optimistic view. So that means they do not deny current position. They do not deny struggles. And they do not deny reality. They most time optimistic is more realistic than people who think that they are realistic, because at the end of the day, most times they are pessimistic. So when people say that, oh, this is not realistic, who decides what is realistic, what's not? Why you qualify for it? Now I'd love to move to number 2. Number 2 is that optimism is the same as this wishful thinking. Yeah, optimism could be a wishful thinking, but again, it depends what do you do. Because a lot of times people say that, oh, I would love to be rich, I would love to be wealthy, I would love to have I wish to have a car. But now, again, this is more very important to ask, what do you do? Do you take actions to become wealthy? Do you take actions to grow yourself, improve yourself, or find a way how to make things happen? Because when you take actions, it doesn't matter what kind of actions you take. Maybe you don't know how you will get there, but you take actions and try and try to find a way. This is optimistic. But people who are saying that, oh, I will be very wealthy, I will be rich, but at the same time they do not do anything and they just play games all weekend and go to clubs every Friday night. I truly believe that optimism is not healthy for them at the moment, because that is wishful thinking. So optimism and action is the way to go. Optimism means always being happy and positive. Again, this is very important. Optimism is it could be 24/7. You can be optimistic all day long, but you will not be positive. It could be that you will be unhappy, disappointed. What you're able to be, you're optimistic and have a huge pain at the same time. That is the biggest thing about optimism. It doesn't matter what you're going through. You still have optimism in your heart. So many times I was disappointed of the things that I made a mistake, I did a failure, but I always kept my optimism. I always had that mind into the future. I always said, okay, what I need to learn from this mistake, what I need to learn from this failure, and how this failure will allow me to really move forward to my actual long-term goal. So that means optimism allows me to accept that disappointment, accept the lesson, and move forward. Optimism, number 4 is optimism is inborn trait that cannot be developed. Optimism is really learned. I know by myself. I used to be very negative. I used to be very pessimistic. I didn't know how to be optimistic. So I needed to surround myself with optimistic people who encourage, who empowers, who inspires, aspire. And then you find a way that, yeah, optimism is better. Because I was pessimistic and optimistic. I could tell you that being optimistic is much better because I became much better in living much more joyful life. Because when you're pessimistic, I used to have probably 80% of my days was negative and I was not joyful. When you're optimistic, 80% of your days are positive, and of course you enjoy your life much more. And the last one is optimism is for naive and unrealistic people. Again, this is almost the same thing as the first one, that people who are optimists, they are not naive. They know exactly what's going on. They know exactly what's going on. They accept. Because a lot of times people pessimistic, they don't accept what's going on. Or people who are realistic, oh, I'm realistic. No. As I said at the beginning, that who gave you the right to say what's realistic, what's not? Maybe this is my optimistic way of view, but this, to be honest, is just realistic. So that means that everyone has different view, but at the same time, when you research optimism, you find that people who have better optimism, they live longer, they have better health, they have better relationships. So if you think that optimism is naive and realistic, a lot of times it backs down that you have a negative view of life. So we need to work on that. We need to improve that. We need to ask ourselves why I believe that optimism is naive, why I believe that optimism is unrealistic. Because when you think about, are you happy? Are you really happy? Are you joyful? Because if you say no, maybe the first step is really start working on optimism. Because when you start working on optimism, you start to see that life is not that bad. There's a lot of messages out there because we are wired to look into negativity, that life is getting worse and worse. But if you look into long term, people in 100 years ago, that people already said that life is getting worse. But when you look into actual facts, people make more money, they live longer, they are more healthy. So everything shows that people live a better life. So that means when you understand that optimism is very important, you start to pursue optimism. And I will share why optimism is so good, because optimism is, I will share 3 things. So interpretation matters. So that means that when you have experience, how you interpret that experience will allow you to take action or sit and complain. So when you interpret your mistake and failure as a lesson, of course, what you will do, as an optimistic person, you will take action more. But if you are pessimistic and you interpret that mistake as this journey is not for you, you will quit. So that means interpretation of optimism is very important. Second thing is that anticipation makes us happy. So that means when you have something in optimistic in mind, that after a month, after a week, after like in 2 days, something great will happen, that optimism of that future will make you much more joyful. And of course, because you're more joyful, have a much better attitude. And last one, optimism changes reality. I love this because it doesn't change. Most time it could change immediately, but when you think about optimism, it changes reality because you take different actions. This is essential in life to understand that optimism changes reality because you change your actions, you change your attitude, your outlook of life is different, and because your outlook in life is different, you take different actions, and different actions, different thoughts bring different results. And of course, those different results bring different reality. So optimism for me is very important. As I said, I used to be pessimistic and I'm now optimistic. And I truly believe that when I turn to be optimistic, my life became much more positive, and I started to achieve different things and faster things than I could ever imagine being pessimistic. So I hope you choose to win, and see you tomorrow.